Welcome to Your Voice to the World. I'm Eddie Pinero, speaker, filmmaker, and storyteller, teaming up with Terrence McMahon, retired CEO and best-selling author. Having built multi-million-dollar businesses and created lifestyle brands enjoyed by millions around the world, we've established a blueprint to do more and become more. Now we're joining forces to inspire you to share your voice and build the business and lifestyle you've always dreamed of. Welcome to Your Voice to the World. I'm Eddie Pinero.
I'm Terrence McMahon.
And we teach you to share your voice.
Build your business.
Today is a banger, my friends.
Big banger.
The greatest salesman in the world.
That's
2
me.
million copies worldwide.
Mandino.
And that's
Mandino.
I was like, what Mandino?
You were looking for his name. His name's Mandino. He's actually from Framingham, Massachusetts, not far from where
Yeah,
we're
I can
from.
tell the accent.
Yeah, you heard him. You heard him talk.
Yeah. So you were telling me a little bit about this dude's background. It's actually a pretty cool story.
He went from being an unemployed, drunken insurance agent. He got fired, thrown out of his house, lost his job, was doing side jobs for booze, basically, and was on the brink of suicide. That's the backstory to this. And he saw a gun in the window of a pawn shop, and it was $29. And he had reached in his pocket, he had the 310s. And when he looked down at the 310s, he also looked up and he saw the public library across the street. He wandered in the public library, went to the self-help book, the success and personal development, started reading books, quit drinking, started writing books. He went there every day, and then he developed the 10 principles that he transferred into this fictional story of the greatest salesman in the world.
Yeah, it's really cool because it feels personal. You know, like the 10 scrolls.
Oh, it's totally awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's laid out, like you can feel sort of the epiphany and the breakthrough he's having through each one, and like his development as a person, and it makes you reflect back on what you're doing and the lessons you're learning. I just found it like super relatable.
Yeah.
You know,
I like how he wrote a story about his principles instead of writing a book about how he did it.
The way it was laid out.
Yeah, you hear a lot about that. It's funny because we connected to books. As you know, it's kind of one of the things I always say. I stopped binging on booze, started binging on books. He took in books, and then he made that into a cool story. It was about a little guy named Hafid who wanted to marry some girl, and the girl's father wouldn't permit him, I guess.
yeah.
And because he had no money, and he was mentored by the greatest salesman in the world, a guy named Petros, and Petros mentored him, taught him these 10 principles. And our principal research assistant Steve's gonna rattle off some principles that we're gonna rattle about, and then bang about what we can do in our lives to use them. These are a lot of the things that you write about.
Yeah.
In your
Yeah, I mean,
channel.
I was going to ask you, so like first read through, do you feel like they'd be wildly different from like if you had to write 10 scrolls for yourself? I mean, it just, going through each one, I'm like, man, it hits the mark.
That's kind of cool.
They're broad, they're broad, but
Yeah. the habits are, the first one is on habits. Habits are everything. It's the base. Scroll number 1 is habits. You look at, he has principle and how you apply it and what it means.
Right.
And we'll go through what they are, what they mean. And Steve?
Yeah.
What do you think?
So you touched on habits being number 1. Why do you think you started with habits as 1?
He had a bad habit to break, right?
Yeah.
And he swapped it out for a good habit. Stop drinking, start going to the library. The public library, it's free.
Yeah. I mean, the habits are the foundation for everything. That was number 2 podcast we ever did, 2 or 3.
We did do it. That's right.
Very beginning,
Atomic
because
habits. It's up there, top left.
you can't shoot for something and then work backwards to habits.
Right.
The habits, like they become who you are. So I'm sure that was one of his first realizations.
Yeah,
What he referred to it in an interesting way, though. He said, like, I'd rather be a slave to my habits. How did he phrase that? I want to be a slave to my habits, not I don't know. I found it interesting. But.
I'm sure this is long before, because Tony, I heard him say this in his original Personal Power, the past does not equal the future.
Yeah.
Those are two different things, and that was one of the big ideas. And if you take a habit out and replace it and switch it and swap it, in financial planning, it's a 180. If you identify something someone's doing wrong and eliminate it, like someone's paying too much for insurance, and let's say they save $200 a month, and that's not uncommon, and they take it and they put it into something and make an interest on it, on that same $200.
Yeah.
It's a velocity. So that's what happens when you knock out a bad habit and you replace it with a good habit. Think about it.
Right.
And all the free time you get when you quit drinking and start reading books. The people you hang around with, the conversations you have are much different.
It's amazing, even because I still drink recreationally, but like this is a little bit of a tangent, but it's amazing how even doing that recreationally has such a negative impact. Like it's the next day you feel where it takes 3 or 4 days to feel great again. You know what I mean? Like if you do it like with your friends or whatever, family, or it's like once in a while, but you have some drinks, like I feel it the next day.
Yeah,
and you pay, man. Yeah. You pay. So that must have been. Obviously, it's night and day, the extent you were drinking to now just cold turkey. The clarity, the time, how you feel.
Drinking's expensive.
It's expensive, yeah.
You pay for drinking so many different ways.
Oh, my God.
You pay for the calories, you pay for the cost, you pay for the time, you pay for the stupid things you do.
Right.
You pay with your health consequences.
And the upside is what a green light to act how you want to act.
Right. If you stopped doing that and you went to the gym or you went to the library or you went out, anything other than, or went to work a little longer. A lot of people bang out of work and go. That's what I did. We used to bang out of work all the time.
Yeah.
We were working because we were talking, because insurance
Right.
agents always said anywhere they are, they're always working. Like, where are you? How's that
Social
work?
workers.
Yeah. As always.
And what you were talking about, it says, bad habits are the unlocked door to failure. Thus, the first law I will obey, which precedeth all others, is I will form good habits and become their slave.
Yeah. Being a slave. I mean, the point's there. I mean, it's very understandable. Slave has such a negative connotation. Like, why would you want to be a slave to anything, good or bad? I'm nitpicking, but...
Well, you become a slave in your habits when you're not doing what you love to do, or if you're committed to do and you're doing something else. You ever notice you feel badly? I mean, I know. I catch you all the time when you're not in your little creative zone for a little while. You get a little grumpy.
Oh yeah. It's like I need it, But it's it's nuance. But a slave to your habits has this connotation, to your point, where it's like you're acting because you're, I don't know, being forced to, as opposed to like consciously creating the will to, like Jocko says, discipline equals freedom.
Talk about discipline today. We went to hot yoga this morning. The two of the three stables for the Your Voice of the World team went to hot yoga, and it's hot. The first time I went, I almost threw up. But today I went. I'm looking over, and we're in a stretch, and the yoga instructor is basically standing on Eddie's back, trying to get him to hit your knee, your nose, or your nose to your knee. I was like that. It looked like I hurt.
What was I doing? I think I curled my back or something.
Yeah. At what point will that become a habit? It's 100 degrees. It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully soon.
I enjoyed it.
I did too.
Something's good.
I feel like $1 million walking out of that place.
Yeah, the end is the best part.
And the planks.
Oh God. If you haven't done them yet, they're a lot of fun.
Scroll 2. I will greet this day with love in my heart. Approach everything and everyone with love. Like
the guy remember that you were walking over here the other day, and the guy stopped you.
He didn't approach me with love. Yeah.
You had an altercation with the guy.
Wasn't reciprocated.
Hey, Eddie.
Yeah, I wasn't Mother Teresa. But
there's this construction zone, and the guy wanted Eddie to walk around. He's been walking through it, and he had a little issue with it.
Yeah, so I had my headphones in, and I was just walking, and there was a sign that said, like, don't walk, basically. And I'm like, oh, okay, fair. So I'll just go on the street, cars are there, whatever, and I'll go around the construction like a normal human being would do.
Right.
And he just was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, going around. And he's like, can you not read? And that's when I was like, duh.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a good thing.
How
could you have handled it differently? Again, you end up getting an argument with the guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could have just been very. I apologize. I'll walk around.
Yeah, he was probably having a bad day. You ever walk into somebody just like, wow, or waitress, I had a lousy mood, just having a bad day. You greet them with love in your heart. Take the high road. There's less traffic up there.
Yeah, everything is just calmer. Everything is just simplified. Everything is just easier. Like a lot of the minutia and the difficult, the wrong turns we make in life are derived from negative emotions and just acting not with love, to use his terminology, but anger, resentment, jealousy, these things that don't push us forward. They have no relevance in our lives, and it's like, just leave it. Leave it. It's the emotional intelligence to realize where you're going, realize that it's not good, it's not conducive to your success or anyone else's. Leave it. Yeah. That's a form of discipline.
It's interesting when we looked at this book, because the first thing, what did you say about Buzz Lightyear?
Oh, yeah.
This book is not about selling. It's not selling skills.
Right.
I mean, I think it's about life skills. I mean, it's called The Greatest Salesman in the World, but Petros was the greatest salesman in the world because he used these disciplines daily. Yeah, mindset. It's really a motivation book, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's what he's talking about. I was reading it, and I'm like, oh my God, like some of this, and this is my first time reading it. I'm like, some of this is stuff that I've talked about almost verbatim, and it's like, well, when Buzz Lightyear learns he's a toy.
There's a lot of toys out there. Well, you have a lot more views than he had sales. This is 2 million copies. This is a good book. He was he ended up being the editor of Success magazine. I think he was.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure it was that, but a famous success journal or magazine. And he was, his mentor was.
Steve. Who?
His mentor was Napoleon Hill. And he worked for W. Clement Stone, which was combined insurance, but
some big names.
Huge.
Success Unlimited magazine.
Success Unlimited. Yeah, he went international. He ended up being a great speaker, and but he wasn't speaking about selling at all. It was always about motivation. Same things you talk about.
Right.
Yeah. People are interested in that.
Foundation for everything, huh?
Everything.
How you look at the world, the story we're playing in our head means the most.
Well, another thing here, in the book, in the fictional story, Petros requires the young man Hafid to read the scrolls 3 times per day for 30 days each. So repetition, right? Mother of skill. He made him do that to establish that pattern. Because you know who else reads this book every day? I guess for when I heard is The Rock.
Yeah,
this is his thing. He reads it.
Well, Mandino says 3 times a day you'll read the scripts too.
Right.
I mean, he really pushes like the,
Yeah.
The what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, repetition. You do it long enough, it becomes a habit. I mean,
right.
And then pretty soon, what you didn't like to do, you have to do. Right. You don't like to do it at first, and then your body gets used to it. It's like eating differently.
Right.
You're breaking, getting off sugar after a while. It was hard to get off sugar, but once you're off sugar, sugar doesn't taste good anymore if you're away from it long enough.
Yeah.
Your body starts to crave the other stuff, and it's hard. And Ray Dalio's book, Principles, he calls it first, second, and third order thinking. Like the first order is what it is, good or bad. Then the second and the third are what happens in the second and third. Like sugar is really good in the first order, really bad in the second and third order. Hot yoga, hard the first one, second, third, better.
Right.
Better health benefits.
I remember in Relentless, he talks about that, like specifically sugar. So Relentless was Tim Grover was Jordan's trainer, was Kobe's trainer. Yeah. And basically, when he's going to coach someone, or mentor someone, train someone, he goes, "You sure you want to do this? Because it's going to be difficult, right?" And they obviously say, "Yeah." And he puts them on this regiment where their diet changes to such an extent where he's like, if they don't come in shaking and sweating and can't sleep, he knows they're full. They're
cheating.
They're cheating. I'm like, oh my God.
I guess that happens at fat farms too. If people aren't losing weight, they're sneaking candy bars in. You know what happens in this house? I buy like 25 protein bars, and then like a day later they're all gone.
Uh-oh.
The protein bar bear eats them. What the hell are you doing?
The protein bear?
He jumps through the room. He's eating all my protein bars.
Great.
What other scrolls you got?
I had a
Scroll
question.
master.
Do you think these scrolls have to go in order, or they're just kind of like laws to live by?
I understand why habits was the first one. I don't think they need to go in order though.
No. I mean, they're all the recipe. I mean, they'll come and I think they'll come into your life when they need them. I mean, one is having fun.
So
Right?
I'm going to jump to a random one then. I think it's number 8. I don't even know Roman numerals, but it's today I will multiply my value 100-fold.
Yeah.
That sounds like a lot for a day.
It's a good mindset to have. Well, I would start with 100-fold, but one, the premise, like, I should be adding value to the world. How can I add value to the world? That's sort of the beginning of everything. You know, it's amazing. I'm sure you see it in the business world. You see it obviously in social, online, in relationships. If you're not adding value, you're at an immense disadvantage.
Both, I think, to you and to the world. I mean, to yourself.
Yeah.
You're making yourself better tomorrow than you are today. I mean, this is 100x, right? 100-fold. That's 100x, and you hear 10x being thrown all over the place. This book's from 1968. The guy's talking about 100x.
Yeah.
And the Japanese have that, and in Toyota they have that the discipline they call Kaizen, which is constant and never-ending improvement. So they have the whole entire company geared up to how can we do this better, like every day still. And that's what made them so high quality is people are always coming up with ideas on how to make their product better. And I think what that means in this scenario is how do you make yourself better every day?
Right.
And living these will definitely do that, in my opinion. But it's kind of cool, 100x.
Talks about learn. Yeah. I mean, that's what we did with this podcast. Every episode, we're asking ourselves, how can we make it more valuable?
And how do we make it more valuable today? We moved the studio.
Totally new studio.
Got better light. You can see the ocean maybe a little bit. Maybe I can see it at least from here. It makes for a little better change of venue.
Yeah, yeah. When you become content and when you stop seeking to improve, you're losing. Period. Yeah. Because one, you can't. Progress is happiness, right? Mm-hmm. And then also, from a competitive standpoint, the people that want it more will get it.
Oh, that's for sure.
Right. That's
for sure. You want to be standing there waiting on it, do you, Steve? Give us another scroll. That one sucks.
All right. This one's pretty impactful as well. I mean, pretty big ideas. I will live this day as if it's my last.
Ooh. That's one of the tougher ones, I think.
You do good with this. The master's short copy, right? If you had 15 minutes and you're leaving the world forever and you wanted to teach someone something, what would you teach them?
I think it's the premise for this podcast. I think it's put yourself in a position to share your voice. I think so many people in life just hide.
Right.
And they don't put themselves in a position to do what they love, and they don't put themselves in a position to grow and engage in the things they care about. We move into this sort of, robotic state where it's like we feel like we're obligated to live a certain way, and that's the end of it. And that's just, it's not how you want to live, and it's not how, you don't have to. And so, if you're living every day like it's your last, you're moving away from conformity and you're eyeing the things that really get you up, get you excited, and I think that's important. Now, the other side, the part that I struggle with is, well, not struggle with, but I guess the conflict is there are things you need to do to set yourself up for tomorrow. That's just being pragmatic. Like you said, people that make money, people that are very successful, they tend to be the people that are okay doing things they don't want to do.
Right.
So, I mean, there is a fine line, obviously, but holistically moving towards what drives
That's
you.
interesting and profound, Eddie, because we were talking about that because we had to set a bunch of things up today, which a lot of it wasn't fun. And we were in the middle of it, and we all started migrating to doing what we like to do
Right.
in our own different ways. And I was like, yeah, people that don't do well only do the things they like to do, and they avoid the things they don't like to do. But 80% of Americans right now self-identify as being unhappy at work. But the last Gallup poll, 19th in the World Happiness Report to
The U.S.?
Yeah. Finland and the Scandinavian countries that have no light or it's cold as hell are 1, 2, and 3 for some reason. And people are doing what they don't like to do. And if you get good at doing the wrong thing, and life was lending on you, that's when you really look back on it and say, why did I not try something else? Steve Jobs looks in the mirror, right? In his famous speech, he says, today I'm looking at myself doing what I want to do today as if it were my last day. If you were leaving on SpaceX with Elon Musk and you're never coming back, and you had 15 minutes, you know, the master of short copy.
Yeah.
Very difficult. You know, that's what your message is. That's what whatever one idea. That's basically your TED Talk. Yeah. Like, you know, I heard people want to do a TED Talk, and they're like, I don't know what to do. And one person I was with the other day, she's a bodybuilder, and she had some issues with steroids and stuff, and actually had a liver problem too. And I was like, well, what would you say? And she says, well, she's all into holistic medicine and everything. And I said, well, what if you had 15 minutes and you were leaving, never coming back, and you wanted to tell something to your daughter and everybody else? What would you say? And she talked about her, you know, her experience abusing performance-enhancing drugs for the purposes of winning. She got hung up on winning more so than her own health.
How do they not test for that? Damn.
How do you test for it?
How do they not? Like, it's crazy.
Oh, there's, I don't know. I think
there's always a way.
This is years ago, but yeah, but that's the idea.
Yeah.
Like, Steve, what would you do? You had 15 minutes left. Now you got 15 seconds to give me an answer. What would you do? What would you do if you had 15 minutes left to tell any one thing to the world?
Similar to what Eddie said, is that try to figure out what you enjoy most and how you can take steps towards living that life. Because there's a lot of things like in my life that I was doing because that's how I was going about living, and I thought that was the right way to do it. And then I really started to question, because I was in that cycle of just doing nothing, where I was like, what do I really want to do? I know I don't want to do this forever. So I figured out, what do I really want to do? And then started to take steps. And just like you were saying, when people do things that they don't really want to do, I started just working hard. And it's like, you don't want to edit through the night or things like that, but work hard. But because you know where you're headed and you know that you want to live that life, it's worth it, because the alternative is just doing nothing, in my opinion, in my experience.
What do they call it? The opposite of life is not death. It's living death. Right? The opposite of love is not hate. It's indifference. It's like you're doing something you don't want to do. Like you're one of the few people that got at it a lot quicker in both your cases. I did what, you know, I did like what I did almost all the time, but I love doing this too, because this is a lifestyle that, you know, a deliberate lifestyle adjustment that was made. Right. I wanted to do what I wanted to do. That's why I call it the stadium swap. I want to change stadiums, do something else that I love to do. I want to leave behind what I didn't love to do.
Right.
That's a big part of live every day like you last. Good scroll.
Motivation versus purpose too, Steve, ties into that. And like, you do it for the lifestyle, and so do I. I mean, it's the freedom to live how you want to live, and be able to help empower others to do the same. Maybe it looks different for people. Maybe it's not Miami, but like whatever it is. And then that's the purpose. And then, so the motivation is sort of the peaks, you know, the short blasts of inspiration. Everything else, you know, that purpose drives us to do those things we don't want to do. You know, like Steve, the late night editing, or, you know, moving all this stuff around, you know, whatever the case is. Yeah. I think a lot of people get too hung up on the motivation and forget the purpose.
Right.
If you don't know where you're going, you know, as soon as things get difficult, you stop.
There's got to be a proper blend of intent and action, you know, like mindfulness, purpose, all that. You know, some people call it fluff if it's not done right. Some people overdose on it. They don't do the things they need to do. They get knowledge, or they go to school a long time. They never implement the knowledge.
Right.
Or they, you know, they're in a job they don't like, and they've been looking at changing careers, but they never take the action. They don't even take a like a little series of steps. Like that book we were talking about the other day, Steve, the one where he has the rocks going across the stream so
Right.
he can jump from one to the next. My mentor said it was the Tarzan principle. You know, no, Tarzan swings across the jungle. At some point, he's got to let go of one rope while he's trying to get the other one.
Yeah.
You can't get that one without letting one go.
Right.
But you got to act, and you got to take a chance, risk.
Yeah.
And the risk is, if today was your last day and you did the wrong thing your whole life, that's the risk.
Ah, man. Yeah. That really hit home. Like,
Yeah.
getting good at doing the wrong thing on your last day, looking back and being like, man, what could have been?
Kind of leads into I will persist until I succeed. No matter what life throws at you, if you keep pushing ahead, you will eventually succeed.
Yeah, this is, if I had to, the rocket ship question, but if I'm looking back on my growth, it is that exact sentiment. It's like perfection slowed me down so much. It's still something that I have to consciously be aware of and realize, Eddie, this doesn't need to be perfect, just go.
Right.
But if you simply persist, if you have the courage to fail and get back up and continue down this path, understanding that, that's how good things manifest. Persist. Not perfection, not a perfect plan, not all these things that we want, like we're inclined to seek out, but simply moving.
Yeah.
That's just so big.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, there's always that's another blend of, acting and then, knowing when to give up on something too.
Well, that's true. Yeah, let go.
It's hard. Yeah. It's hard to do that. It's hard to give up on something that you got a lot into. It's that sunken cost bias that we talked about last week. Like you got so much into it. Is it going to work? Is it not going to work? I know a couple people, probably 3 come to mind that we all know that have been impressive in their stead. They're staying, they're on board, they're pretty committed, and in many cases, they're not living, they could do something else and make a lot more money. These are not people without skills. They're having high levels of skills. Jeff Bezos just got lucky.
At the right time.
Yeah. He jumped on a trend.
Well, persistence also means adjusting, though. Because if you're talking about someone continuing forward, and like things haven't clicked yet, if you're not making changes and adapting and progressing as an entrepreneur or as whatever you are, you're not really persisting. You're kind of running in place.
Yeah, that speaks to getting, a win and getting someone to trying to do something that you can do.
Yeah.
When you skip dominoes and the domino effect, if you go from they keep knocking each over, one bigger to the next, but if you can't skip one, it won't knock it over. You got to make sure. If it won't knock the one over, you got to go to a smaller yes. Yeah. You got to you got to back up to something that you can make some momentum, because the lack of momentum inertia is a big time challenge sometimes to some people, particularly financial inertia. They just can't figure out how to monetize something. That's why it's so important to learn from books and the way people have learned how to take ideas to monetize them. The mentors of the world, like Jeff Bezos and Tony, in the speaker information world, or Warren Buffett as an investor, Steve Jobs as an innovator, Bill Gates. These are all people that have all taken ideas and stuck with them for long periods of time.
So do you want to talk about something you've done or something you do to continue forward, to continue to navigate? And then maybe we can talk about something we've let go of too, to help us down that path.
Yeah, I mean, in my world, I could have after I had my medical event, I could have retreated back to a very comfortable job doing something I was very good at, and I think that ran its path. It wasn't that it was not the right thing to do, but I became as good as I wanted to become at it. And there's things I always wanted to do. And there was things that I did during my journey that was important to me that I'd share with others. And that was speaking and telling people that you can recreate yourself. You can improve on anything. And the worse you are off, this is why my message resonates so much in the addiction space for some reason, is these people are in really serious trouble. They're at the worst possible moment, but that's the point in time when if you make any progress off that low point, you can, it's noticeable, and that creates momentum. Everything's in momentum. But for me, it's just taking momentum from, I fell in status when I got sick and left my post, my role as CEO, back to pretty much nothing, and I'm trying to build it back up. Online, live events, through my books, through my teaching, through this podcast. So we can, and I created allies. We have three people here that have three distinct skill sets. I used to not do that in my business. I never was open-minded enough. I needed the feedback, that brutal transparency that we enjoy, because Steve's expertise is in engagement, your expertise is in messaging, and mine's in monetization. And those all intersect quite nicely, I think in a great business model.
I agree.
Which I think, is the results are coming, which is very exciting. It's always more exciting being at the beginning of something anyway. I think that's more interesting.
Looking up.
Yeah, looking up at the mountain.
I think for me, it was probably moving the emotion from the results and looking more at what's working. Just being more pragmatic in a lot of ways has helped me grow and continue to evolve quickly. When I'm moving slowly or when I'm not seeing the results I want, it's usually because I'm not taking a step back and looking at, what's providing the value. That goes back to I forget what scroll 8 maybe, giving value to the world. And then regarding things that I've let go of, a lot. That's constantly changing, constantly, like it's little things, because to your point, like I'm not in a bunch of different arenas. I'm in social media, I'm in messaging, I'm in motivation. It's pretty,
right.
But the way that's delivered, trying vlogging, fine, removing vlogging, music, there's different ways I can incorporate it, but it's not the crux of what I want. Certain, allies, there's a lot of changing, moving parts, and looking to be like, nope.
Music's always coming back to you, though.
I enjoy it. I think it's like I can get the artistic piece writing speeches that are moving. It doesn't have to be music, and I think that was a growing piece. Steve and I mess around with music stuff all the time. It's more of a release.
Yeah.
And that was a big, epiphany for me. It's like if you dive deeper, you can get what you love, doing it a little bit different and a little bit more productive.
Yeah. If money was no object, money or time was no object, what would you be doing?
I think it would be this.
Yeah.
I really do.
This is a lot of fun. I'm surprised I like it so much.
Yeah. This is awesome.
I enjoy it. And who knows how you end up monetizing some elements of this. I mean, some of it's philanthropy, which is fine. We'll teach some people they'll never ever join any of our groups or take any of our courses or hire us to speak, but they'll get value out of it. And somewhere, directly or indirectly, someone will benefit from this conversation and get out of a place where they're unhappy, like he was when he was going to blow his head off with a $29 gun.
Absolutely. I'd say that's rock bottom.
I don't know why that came to me. But there's always a better way. And, sometimes just wander into a public library if you're not feeling well.
Yeah.
Grab a book in the self-help area.
Audible. Go for a long walk. A lot of ways.
Listen to one of the 52 million viewed videos that you've put out.
So many
he's
options.
gotten...
the one thing you told me not to do is bang on the table.
What? He's a nervous dude.
He's got no master of his emotions, which is a great segue to number 6, which is today I will be the master of my emotions. Don't let your moods and thoughts control you and your actions. That kind of reminded me of what you were just talking about, Ed, where you were saying you had to take a step back.
Yeah.
Do you think you have to master your emotions better?
Yeah, we just hit on it. Like 100%. So it's like... what I don't remember the exact phrase, but it's like you never make a good decision in a state of emotional distress.
Right.
Ever.
Like the guy you yelled at in the street.
Yeah, like that.
Seriously, you're right. I mean, never. If you could handle that, go back and handle it again, you wouldn't handle it the same way, probably.
Probably not. I mean, it felt good to lay into him a little bit.
Because you're quick. That's one thing I appreciate about you. He comes up with stuff fast. I think about it when I'm sitting in bed 2 days later, like, oh, I should have said that. That would have been more clever.
But I could have been nicer. I hope you're well out there. Wherever you are.
Love them in. My mentor used to say, because we had a lot of turnover, like people would come into the business and 9 out of 10 would not be there in 4 years. It's 90% for your attrition, which isn't uncommon in any business. Think about any business. People come in, they come and go. They don't just stay.
Right.
McDonald's or Walmart or Fidelity, these people come and go. Very few people stay. In the insurance industry, it's 90%. But we always love them in and we love them out. You know, you got to sell them happiness instead of firing them. And that's one of the things that are important when you're trying to like manage your bonus. It's just a very emotional business.
Yeah.
Getting rejected and selling. The reason I think this book is about selling, even though there's no sales skills in it, is when you're trying to sell something, and people struggle with this, is emotions come into play. And you got to understand, when they're usually saying no to something, not you.
Can't personalize it.
Right. They're not connected to it, or it's not been presented correctly. They're not saying anything no to you, but that's when these scrolls come into handy, because every no gets you closer to a yes in sales.
Right.
But that's hard to coach on. Like people said, if they have good systems and good habits, and they've created connections to how to keep persisting and keep moving forward. I think that's why this book's called The Greatest Salesman in the World.
Yeah. I agree.
This one kind of stood out to me. It's number 7. Sorry. I will laugh at the world, see things in perspective, and laugh often. That one's kind of very different, so I had to throw it in there.
It's the single source of happiness. How much better is it doing work with people that you have fun with and laughing and joking? I mean, you can't live without that.
Yeah.
The social, the glass balls, right? If you're not laughing,
the conversations we had today were
they were.
Yeah, I'm so funny. That's
the problem.
Right?
Steve's just so funny.
You're a funny guy. You're funnier than I thought. I thought you were just some guy that like jumps around like a Mexican jumping bean, dunks basketballs.
It's just interesting because I did not expect that to come from these scrolls when I was reading the book as well. It was just like, you see all these ones are very pragmatic, very like they kind of blend into each other, and then there's just laugh often. It doesn't seem like it's even relevant because it says basically spread love, treat others like with love as if you, everything you do, and then it's just laugh.
What would you say laughter's emblematic of? Like, what does laughter signify?
I think it signifies
joy in its purest sense, right?
Yeah, with someone else. I mean, you can't laugh by yourself. Some people do, but if you're not around people that are fun and funny, or not having a good time, or not accomplishing something that's worthwhile, laughter is very rare.
Right.
You ever been in rooms? I've been in rooms all over the country when I'm doing some consulting gigs. Some rooms are like vibrant, and you can tell people are going out and because they're talking as you come into the room about what they did this weekend, or something funny that happened, or some common sports team. And there's others where they're just sitting there waiting for you to talk to them, and that's all indicative of good teams. You know.
I would argue, I think that makes perfect sense. I would argue that even maybe simpler. It's like, don't lose sight of the things that are really important. Like, does any of this matter if you're miserable?
No.
None of it. You know, if you don't have perspective, if you can't find a reason to smile and enjoy life with people, who cares about anything else?
Or laugh at yourself.
That's true.
Everyone takes yourself too seriously.
Right.
You know, nothing's worse than seeing yourself on like when Steve's
camera.
recording you, and you don't. Yeah, like recording like my triple chins and my, some kind of slides. It's like, come on, man, stop putting me in a bad.
I like
place.
what you said about laughing at yourself, because I think that's why we get along great, is because we all can jab at each other, and I think it goes well. Because if you can't laugh at yourself, then there's like some other issues. It's just like. And like you said, with laughing is like a pure sense of joy. It's like if you're able to laugh in a situation, whatever you're in, I feel like you're in the best state. At least for me, like I'm a huge fan of it, huge fan of comedy in general. And it's like the most fun I'm having in any day, like living like it's my last, if I will, is laughing. Like if I go a day without laughter, there's a famous quote. I'll look it up for myself. But it's like a day without laughter is a day wasted. I think it was.
You know what we did one day when some guy called me out in some meeting. Some guy called me out in some meeting and making fun of me. I was 350 pounds. It was very well done too. And I laughed.
The joke was?
The joke was good. Yeah, he got me like in front of a room full of 300 or 400 people. So what I
Sounds
did.
like a real piece of shit.
I'm gonna give. No, it's good. Because I took out like 25 ads in the local newspaper, and It was for free kittens to a good home, and I put his cell phone number in there. So he got like 25,000 phone calls. I ruined his cell phone number. So we had a good time. He he had
Everyone
fun.
laughed at him.
No, he laughed at me, and they laughed. And then, about a year later, I told him the best thing about it when you do that is you don't tell him you did it.
Yeah.
You have, a year later, you go up to him, you go, meow.
Oh my
Look
God.
at you go, you son of a bitch. But you got to have a good time. And that's because you don't live once. Like, you see that you don't, what do you say? You only live once. You live every day.
Yeah.
You die once. And laughing is what you do every day. That's the best part of any day is the laughter.
I'd be curious too. I don't even know why I'm saying this because this is not a look up now type question, but I bet there's biological, positive biological effects of laughing.
Oh no, I actually just saw something recently. I think it was Joe Dispenza because one thing I had literally thought of was like it'd be awesome to cure ailments with laughing because I really believe like when you're in a happy mood, like the positive. What was that book? The Effect of the Positivity. What was it called again? We were
The
just
Power
talking
of
about
Positive Thinking?
Yeah, that
Norman
one.
Vincent Peale.
Yeah, so if you're constantly positive thinking, I really think it helps your body heal better, like as opposed to a negative state. Simple elements, even if it's a placebo effect or whatever it is. And I was thinking it'd be great to have an actual results of a study conducted of people that laugh more if they're able to cure anything from a cold to whatever it was. And then recently, I think it was Joe Dispenza, I'll look it up, but he posted something about laughing with actual results from some kind of study, and I posted on my story on Instagram. But I'll find the link or something.
Yeah, I'd love to see
but
that.
it was pretty interesting because it was exactly what you're talking about. It was real results of laughing that helped people feel healthier and be healthier, like statistically.
Yeah. See?
Yeah, Daniel Pink writes about it in Drive, the book we'll be doing probably next season, that's Motivation 3.0 versus Motivation 1.0. The old way was you'd be giving an algorithmic task as an employee, and they'd tell you how to do it. Mm-hmm. And then the incidence of unhappiness and turnover and depression and the job site way up with that. And he calls it 3.0, which is using heuristics. Figuring out how to get a job, just telling someone what result you're looking for and letting teams work together. Like Google does it a lot. They all break off and sometimes they even leave the campus and they go work on something. They might even go on a trip and come back to Google and say, hey, look what we found. We found Google Maps. They found so many different things doing that, having a good time with it. Laughter's a big deal for sure.
And maybe a rabbit hole, but it's a stretch, but like, I don't know if it's the direct inverse, but if you take like the opposite emotions, anxiety, depression, I mean, those have a clear adverse effect on people die from that. I mean, cancer is closely linked to stress.
Oh, definitely.
And anxiety and so I mean, just in that alone, you can.
Remember we talked about this the other day when we were talking about, I'm doing a TED Talk in January, and I'm not sure what to do it on, but one of the things I want to do it on is this concept that, there's diseases that are being invented that didn't exist, 20 years ago, 50 years ago. Like I bought the DSM, a Diagnostic Manual of Diseases, like 400 diseases. There only used to be maybe 50. So they're inventing diseases and they're inventing pharmaceutical drugs. But remember, if I was holding a rope here and you were holding one at your apartment down the street, and it represented the hundreds of thousands of years humans have walked this planet.
Right.
In the last 20 years is almost nothing.
Right.
All this depression and anxiety and addiction and school shootings and unhappiness has all come on relatively recently.
It's all new.
Yeah, which is because people are unhappy. They're not laughing. And what the cure is to have fun, to do what you like to do. Definitely not to do more what you don't like to do.
Right. That'll be an interesting talk.
I know. I mean,
It'll be fun.
I'm gonna piss everybody off, but
what did Brian Breach say? Controversy equals virality.
half. I'll have 50% of the room will be enjoying it, and the other half won't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just reality. Can you imagine, like, what did they do? If it's a disease, they've had it forever. Like 150 years, 200 years ago, there was a disease for something, and what are they doing? Sitting around, or even 500 years ago, they sitting in the fields, like dealing with their disease.
In a circle.
They're going to wait in 300 years. I think we'll be upset about this. I don't see it.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I think it's environmental. I think it's people are not moving. They're not eating well. They're in jobs they don't like. They're not thriving. They're like animals that are in a zoo. They're unhappy. And if you laugh, if you're with people that make you laugh, that's I think a quick way out.
I think consumption too of those apps is really, really bad. Then I know sometimes people get pushed back. They say, well, it depends what's in your feed. It depends, whatever. You're constantly looking at other people promoting themselves and what they're doing in their highlight reels. And I just don't think it's healthy. And I think time will show that.
Well, this is science. When you're in a state of like anxiety, it's cortisols and there's hormones being released into your body that were designed to help you deal with real danger. Mm-hmm. There's not real danger if someone has a Lamborghini and you're driving a Yugo, but you can create your own stress over that. And what's the app that doesn't do likes anymore? It was going to hide the likes. Was it Instagram?
Instagram, I think, was going to take.
Because kids were literally killing themselves or. They're having a big problem with the fact they're not getting friends to like them.
But we talked about last week, status. That's as ingrained into us as possible.
Yeah.
If maybe he's got a Lamborghini and it's not threatening my life, but your subconscious looks at status. Mm-hmm. And that, I don't know. I don't think consuming that comparison all the time is not healthy. You gotta be self-focused.
You can spend a lot of time playing with your phone or being in a job you don't like. You can not like the way you look. You can not like the way you relate to other people, but you can do something about it, right? You can learn how to take action, or you can ask for help, right? What's the last scroll, Steve?
Scroll 10, pray to God for guidance, not for material things or rewards.
I saw that in the book, the spirit of that scroll is to ask for guidance. Put it out there in the universe that you want to do something, or you want help or guidance, mentorships. I think this book's about mentorships. It's about getting a mentor, and because Pathos was Hafid's mentor. And in this book, by the way, to close it out, there were 3 generations of the scrolls. The person who got them the 3rd time, which was going to be Hafid, got to share the 10 principles with the world.
Yeah, I saw it as at least scroll 10, like giving someone a fish versus teaching them to fish. Mm-hmm. So material things. One, there's nothing to it. It's a dead end. There's no happiness in material things. You got to go deeper. So from the point of personal contentment, but also from the standpoint of being able to recreate your environment and the things that bring those resources to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
That was my interpretation of that. It's not that they're cryptic, but I think when you read them, everyone sort of relates them back to their own situation.
Right. I mean, you're going to make mistakes. If you're going to make any changes, and I think this book's about, everything in here is about changing your behaviors to 10 principles, and everyone can change and make them a little better, right?
They're basically affirmations.
Yeah, in the spirit of Kaizen, I can have better management of my emotions. I can have better habits. I can act quicker. I can ask for help more. And all that is if you're being mentored and guided, by team members and other people, mm-hmm. You can leverage the mistakes they've already made. And Warren Buffett said that. It says you only learn through mistakes, but they don't have to be yours.
Yeah.
So that's the greatest salesman in the world.
So let's give them one takeaway or one big thing that we took from this that we will incorporate into our lives, or maybe do differently, or maybe do less of before reading this book or after reading this book.
That was a good question.
I know.
I gotta tell you,
Steve chuckling.
I'm still gonna keep. I'd like to keep the concept that people are better than the world is showing me. I judge people a lot of times based upon the reactions. Like if I'm getting bad service in a restaurant, we were pretty bad. You and I are pretty bad service snobs.
Yeah.
If we're getting bad service, all of a sudden we're in a bad mood, and they're in a bad mood.
When you move from Boston to Florida, in fairness, it's like night and day. But that's being snobby.
I don't know why that is. But
it's like slow motion.
But they're not bad. I mean, people aren't bad people. Well, they're culturally different. Anytime I go down south or I go to the Caribbean and you try to get some food or anything, I go out of my mind.
Yeah.
I'm like bouncing. I want to now. Like, when do you want it?
Right.
We had a guy. We were in Mexico once, and my friend and Fitzy and I were there, and we were asked for some drinks. And the guy goes, absolutely, but first I must cut the lemons. So he goes over, he starts cutting up like 15 lemons. And me and Fitzy were like, sure.
Dude, I just want a cup of water.
Yeah. But, making sure that you recognize that, everyone isn't who you are. They don't act who you are. And there's good in almost everybody. Very few people are aberrated.
I like that.
Yeah.
I got a way to wrap it up. So we have only 2 scrolls we didn't mention, and it's number 9, which is I will act now. Without action, there will be no results, which you kind of talked about a bunch throughout the other ones. And then the last one, which you kind of just touched on, which was number 4. I am nature's greatest miracle. Leverage fully on your unique characteristics, skills, and assets, which I struggle with. Obviously, I dunk, and that's like very specific. But it's like it's hard to hone in on what I want to do because I have that persist until I succeed aspect where I want to just get better at everything because I feel like I could succeed at all those different things, but it's hard to hone it into one skill. So how do you leverage your unique skills?
I remember we talked about this for you today, and we were moving some things around, and I found an old whiteboard, and it was the top 10 world problems. And Steve's like, what do I do, with my life? Like, well, why don't you take one of these 10 problems and solve it?
Where am I right
What
now?
were the 10 problems? It was like, water, safety. But there was like 3 or 4. He did say that. I was like, I don't know what the hell you do. You do something. But there's 10 problems. And I did this exercise because my father used to tell me I was the best in the world. And I always kind of joke saying he kind of lied to me because I was always the best player and everything. And that wasn't true. But it gave me confidence. And in Good to Great, which is a book behind me, Collins talks about the hedgehog principle. The hedgehog's the best in the world at protecting itself. It rolls up in a little ball. And one day I was sitting there saying, what can I do that can be best for the world? And I Googled the top 10 world problems. And the 2 that I saw that I can help with were education and poverty. Learning to earn. That drives what I do. It's why I'm doing this. Like I can educate a lot of people now through this way, teaching people how to make money, and it's provided for free. This could be shared all over the world. In fact, we're in many countries. I think we're in like 80 countries when you pulled the analytics yesterday for some reason, which is awesome. But what did you come up with for yourself when you looked at that list?
I'm not too sure. Like I know I'm the enjoy. That's why the laughter one was kind of big for me out of the scrolls, is that I really love enjoying life to the fullest. So I like to do things that make me laugh, but I also like helping other people. That's kind of like the fulfillment factor, is like helping other people get to what they enjoy most. So I'm kind of figuring that out, and I'm kind of using dunking as a platform for that because I thoroughly enjoy doing that, but it's more of just one aspect, and I do it because I love it, but I like to make every aspect of my life something I love to do.
And it was a health and fitness, because the number 10 issue now in the world is obesity.
Yeah.
Like your extreme expertise in health and fitness.
Yes.
Which is something that you can speak intelligently about in any room in the world right now. Everybody's got something, which I think is that scroll's about.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Well, I think it's storytelling. It's the intersection of like what I love to do and what I feel like adds value. And so like, for me, it's been experimentation, and I think understanding that when I talk about stories and talk about things, talk about lessons learned and experiences, that it helps people. And there's some flexibility into how I communicate and articulate those messages, but I think that's what it is, just helping people see certain truths or certain realizations that I believe. I'm not force feeding, not saying it's fact or reality, but hey, this is something I've experienced. This helps me, here's a window into my epiphany or my realization. So that's kind of the way I look at it. Storytelling.
Yeah. The unique storytelling that you're the best in the world at, in my opinion, is the way you incorporate music, interactive video and spoken word all together. Like no one else does that like you. And that gives people
Appreciate that.
more sensory attention, I guess. I don't know if that's the word, but
Yeah, it's emotion,
It
right?
gets them-
Emotion gets people to act, not logic and instinct. Those come, but if you don't have someone open emotionally or in tune to what you're trying to say, feeling good, feeling a certain way, then it doesn't matter what facts or data you present. I mean, we've talked about that. So that's why I place such an emphasis on sort of the artistic delivery, because it opens people up to bigger thinking.
I love that.
gets them going. All right. Next week, we're looking at building a story brand. It's behind you there. Building a story brand is how to incorporate story into your branding.
Boom.
This is where Eddie and I intersect with Steve's engagement expertise. Talk about how you can build a story into your brand so that you can have people see your products and connect the story to how you can help them.
Yeah.
Great book.
How to paint a picture for what you're trying to do, right?
Donald Miller.
I actually just met with Michelle Wax in Boston, and she's reading that right now. I've talked to a few people that are reading, like the reviews on this book are always phenomenal. Have you noticed that?
Yeah.
He just hits it out of the park. I'm super excited to read it. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, I love it.
But yeah, I mean, I'm pumped. So I can't wait for next week.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Well, hey, until next time.
That's a wrap.
Bye.